Well, for more on this story now, joining us live from Beirut is Haytham Faraj, who's a lawyer and a retired Marine Corps officer. Thank you for coming on. We've had no response from Hezbollah to this point so far on the Israeli response. Syria is claiming that some of these strikes that Israel launched on its military sites were directed from Lebanese territories. What more do we know at this point, and are you expecting a response from Hezbollah?
Well, good morning, and thank you for having me. I don't expect a response from Hezbollah that is related to the Israeli attack on Iran. That kind of plays into the hand of the claim by the Israelis that it's merely a proxy. Hezbollah is fighting its own war, defending its Lebanese territory and supporting the people of Gaza. And so while I expect that there will continue to be a vigorous response from Hezbollah, as we've seen over the last month, or since September 30, on the ground and in rocket attacks, I don't expect a specific response related to the Israeli attack on Iran.
And as we know, Israel's severely increased its bombardment of Lebanon in the last month. Some neighborhoods are, at this point, they've been wiped out. Are there hopes for you? Are you hoping that the new ceasefire discussions, which are scheduled, may lead to some positive action?
I'm not hopeful, and I don't think there'll be a ceasefire until the Israelis suffer more casualties in the ground operation. Israel is in trouble. They are stuck in the sands of Gaza. The West Bank is on fire against them. They have committed to a ground war in Lebanon, and all the reports indicate that they are losing that battle. And so the only card they have left, which they indeed have superiority in, is the air campaign. They've run out of targets to attack. So what we saw over the last couple of days is attacking banking institutions that they claim belong to Hezbollah. They're in fact institutions that run sort of an Islamic finance system, Qard al-Hassan. We saw them attack journalists yesterday on the border, a home that contained a number of journalists from various media outlets. And so they've run out of targets, and the only thing they have left now is terrorism. It's terrorism against civilians, terrorism against first responders, the civil defense teams. I think there are over 150 killed at this point by the Israelis, and just general civilian targets. The neighborhood I'm in right now, near us, was targeted just a few days ago, civilian buildings. It's a form of terrorism to try and put pressure on the Lebanese to pressure Hezbollah to stop. But my experience here is Hezbollah continues to have widespread support. They are defending Lebanese territory. They're doing it in a very meaningful way on the border. They may not be able to respond in kind to the Israeli bombardment, which is really U.S. bombardment because it's U.S. planes and U.S. missiles. However, I think they've been pretty effective. And until we see more Israeli casualties, I don't think you'll have a meaningful effort at a ceasefire.
And Haytham, in terms of the attacks that happened in Iran overnight following Israel's missile strikes, do you think Iran may retaliate, even though it's being warned by the US at this point to stop in these tit-for-tat strikes?
I don't know that Iran will retaliate, and it doesn't need to. Shadya's report just a few minutes ago that she observed about 100 planes and drones confirms what the Israelis said, and that appears to me theater for their public. That appears to be a true statement from them that maybe 100 different aircraft and drones took off. But I assure you there weren't 100 different strikes in Iran, even based on their own statements. They're saying 20 targets. The Iranians are saying something far less. It's a shy response. It's a shy response that's theater for the Israeli public. Because in effect, Israel cannot afford to open a new front. It cannot afford to open a new air front against it, even though the U.S. is ready, willing, and has committed to defending them. And so I think Iran may not respond because the attack, at least according to the Iranians, was not very effective. And even from the Israeli side, if you really consider what they're saying, they said they've attacked 20 targets, but they don't tell you what they attacked. They don't tell you what strategic importance there is. It was theater by the Israelis to maintain face for their public.
So you're calling this theatre. So do you believe at this point that any damage that was made to Iran's military infrastructure was minor and won't have really any sort of big repercussions for them?
Yeah, I'm not going to guess. What we do know is, at least initial reports, the Iranian Revolutionary Guard targets were not targeted. None of the oil infrastructure was targeted. And so I'm not sure what was targeted. What I do know is it wasn't strategic in nature. And so the question for Iran now is, do we retaliate and open the front that Israel wants to open that might pull in the U.S.? What strategic gains do we get from that? Or do we let this war of attrition continue, which seems to be bleeding the Israelis long term? And I think that's what the Iranians will end up doing.
And in terms of the US's part in this, we know that the White House was briefed by Israel. Do you think that Israel would have sought their approval before carrying out this level of attack in Iran, even though it wasn't as major as it could have been?
I don't know that approval is the right word, because I am sure, and I think your reports confirm it, that there was cooperation throughout, up to and including President Biden. And so I can't coach this in any other terms except this was a joint operation. The appearance of the F-16s from the 480th Squadron yesterday, the THAAD anti-missile batteries that were installed, the intelligence cooperation. This was a joint effort. There was a solid analysis by the United States that you should not have a more extensive campaign because this will pull in Iran, and we don't want that. And I think that's what the Israelis did. And so I don't know that it was so much approval as much as a joint operation, even though Biden and Austin both came out and said, you know, we weren't involved. The word here is, what do you mean by involved? Yeah, you may not have targeted, but using your intelligence assets, using your air defense systems is involvement. It's not just approval.
Okay. Haytham Faraj, thank you so much. Live from Beirut for us there.